Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau. I'm a video producer, a Christian, and I love history and politics, as many do. Today I'd like to talk about Representative Eric Swalwell from California and his comments. Representative Eric Swalwell from California has made some rather fiery rhetoric, which has gotten the social channels roaring. Of course, I shouldn't say of course, but it has to do with the Second Amendment. He has called for the confiscation of semi-automatic rifles using $15 billion of the taxpayer dollars to do this, and proposes criminally prosecuting those who don't participate. Wow. What does that fiery rhetoric do for us? He was the one that also was quoted as saying, praise the midterm voters who worked to save America. Well, I can understand why he would say that with the division in the country that's been growing for decades. These divisions aren't something that Donald Trump brought or different parties. These divisions have grown over time. And they have to do with religion, political beliefs, scientific beliefs. All of these things have been moving to divide us up. From a spiritual sense, I have to say that I'm a believer that Satan exists. And of course God exists and is always looking to divide us. Our natures, we are fallen creatures. So we're going to pursue what we think is right for us without thinking of our neighbor and how that would affect them. Unfortunately, that's just our fallen nature, and we're going to have to struggle with that. But his rhetoric about confiscating weapons is bound to raise the ire of many Americans. I understand the sorrow and the tragedy and the loss of very unstable people taking the lives of others with guns or anything else. They're disturbed and they have problems, and those are things that we need to struggle with. How can we stop these people? Because they're probably about as random as lightning strikes. It's just how it is. But for a representative, a U.S. representative, to make a statement like that is engaging your mouth before you've engaged your mind, or your intention is to create that division and rhetoric. Which may be, it definitely gets attention. And that's more than likely what he wants, is attention to a problem. And we do have we have a problem with that. Now, particular weapons being used, semi-automatic weapons are, they're easier to shoot. And if you're attempting to do what they do, I guess that's what you choose. But those people represent a tiny fraction of our population. Just a tiny number of people. So when a politician comes out and says these things, he's putting us all in this lump, saying we're all going to suffer this consequence. He's going to ask the government to force everyone to turn in semi-automatic weapons, whoever have them. But the the pain, the problem, the force is coming down on people who would never do anything like these tragedies. And that's the real argument. Those that enjoy the liberties we've been given in the Constitution, especially to bear arms. I mean, that is an exceptional liberty to allow people to arm themselves, to not only protect themselves and their families, but to protect themselves against the government. And yes, we're not going to get into a war or civil war with each other like that. And he also got into that fiery rhetoric of the government overpowering the citizens of this nation and their weapons. That's the kind of rhetoric maybe heard in the Civil War. And I understand that anger because Americans are very sensitive to anybody trying to take away their rights. And I can understand that, especially the right to bear an arm. That's a great piece of liberty. The fact that a country allows that shows you that there has to be a certain level of trust in its population to allow people to do that. But also it's an example, not just trust, but to give that ability to people. I'm sorry I'm losing my frame of mind on that, but it's just such an important part that we have that right to bear arms. I suppose you can go into history and see where people, countries have disarmed people to control them, whatever it may be. But that's what's so great about this country, is having that liberty. But with liberty comes responsibility. And that's what you're counting on, is that people are going to be responsible. So there has to be glue that holds that together. And I confess that it's the Christian religion or other religions that are peaceful and want people to be at peace and not be murdering each other. But that's that spiritual glue that holds the country together. That's what's so important. So when you start threatening people as a politician, that you're going to take things away from them and that you're going to force it with the government gun, that's really outrageous. You need to, yes, seek answers to these tragedies. Yes, do that, but don't be punishing everyone with laws of that sort, of confiscation and enforcement of that confiscation. I've heard other politicians make statements like, I think I heard the prospective governor of California say they might not like it, but it's just too bad. He said something like that. I've heard that before. And especially over very controversial issues, and especially if they deal with spiritual issues that are very near and dear to the population, to people. So, wow, representatives, think about what you're saying. Don't let your emotions control you. You've got to think logically about how we're going to deal with these issues. And of course, the voters, when you hear these things and your reactions, if you get nothing but emotional, I can appreciate it. We have to think about these things logically. How are we going to deal with these incidences? That's where we're at. When there was the shooter that got and shot up the representatives in the baseball game, as an example. I mean, that's a crazy thing to do. The last shooting event in California. I mean, there's definitely something wrong with these people, but still, it's a very tiny number of people that are doing these things, and to punish the whole electorate because of that is not sensible. So try to contain your emotion and seek peace, and especially with your neighbor, seek peace always. Yes, there's time for war, but not here. Let's remember that. So in this difficult time and difficult day of politics, and we've had them before, we must seek ways to get along and be at peace with one another. So thank you. I'm Tim Linsdau. I appreciate you listening. Comment and like on my video, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.